to start our interview, I'd like to tell you a bit of a story, how I met you. I don't know if you remember, but the first time I met you was during a pitch event of AI Plus Munich. It was the first time I think you participated in an ecosystem event here in Munich, and you were amazing, in my opinion. You were so full of energy, smiling all the time, just the way you do it now. Yeah, like super amazed. Like you came from Stuttgart, I think, and you wanted to get in touch with the Munich ecosystem. You came there, you did not know where to go specifically, you just started doing things, and you didn't know if you want to join a company, a startup, a team, or do your own thing. You wanted to explore and get to inspire it. That was your words back then. And now we're sitting here, and I know that you joined SmartAIs, yeah, as a co-founder. And I just love this things that just had happened randomly, basically. And this I thought is a super amazing story, background story for me, to have someone who came to Munich, explore the ecosystem, and then find a team, people really want to work with and develop something. I thought it's a perfect setup to actually get an interview. So let's start with the very basic thing. Please give us a bit of an introduction to yourself, the startup you're working for, or you're basically part of the founding team, and what the actual product is.
Yeah, sure. Happy to do that. Happy to be here in the interview. I also love that you mentioned the story how I came to Munich because it's almost 2 years ago, and it feels like it's been so many things have happened since then, and I'm super happy to be here. So yeah, I'm Sasha from SmartAIs, and we use AI to empower blind people. What do you think is the biggest problem for blind people when they walk outdoors?
I think the biggest challenge is to actually be brave enough doing it. It's first thing. I know your product. It's a bit of a bias. Yeah, let's talk about biases at some point. How to interview people, but I think the biggest challenge is to get in touch with the outside world, like finding the right bus, for instance, something where you need more information than just a thing being there in a way, but you want to go somewhere and you need information that is not available to you in general. Just like not an obstacle, but information at very different prices. This is what I think.
Yeah, you're totally right. There are so many challenges for blind people outdoors. We asked blind people and we found out one of the biggest problems are obstacles. Obstacles on sidewalks like an e-scooter, a bicycle, a pole, a trash bin. They are everywhere. They are nerve-wracking and they hurt. And today there is no good solution. So you have the white cane that you could use, but it only detects things up to 1 meter ahead of you, and it only detects things below waist level. So there are a lot of obstacles that cannot be detected. There is the guide dog, who is a nice companion. However, guide dogs are only available for 2% of the people affected, and they cost as much as 40,000 euros in training. That's crazy. So not everyone can have a guide dog. There are some new devices coming to the market, but they have separate hardware and they're heavy, inconvenient to wear, and they also will be quite pricey. So we said, well, isn't there a better way to solve the obstacle problem? And we said, we want to try to solve it with a simple to use smartphone app. So how does it work? You have a specially designed bag in front of your chest. You just download the app on your smartphone. You store the smartphone inside of your bag, and then the smartphone in real time analyzes the sidewalk with its cameras and sensors. It can identify obstacles. It can identify the free path. And then we can basically warn with tones of vibration, yeah, to help people to get around those situations. This is what we're doing. We are a team of 4 founders. There are my 2 technical co-founders, Yaman and Said, and there's Annika, ensuring that we are doing customer-centric product design, and I'm responsible for the business parts like financing, communication, marketing.
Really nice. When you mentioned you have four co-founders in general, they didn't start that way. Yeah, it was of course a journey. Like as far as I know, Yamin and Zaid were the ones starting the general idea. You joined afterwards, and Annika later as a designer. First thing is we have the topic of diversity there, like tech, business, and design. And this is something that did not happen from the beginning, but it was you set the team together. This is something I was wondering if you can explore. Like the necessity, when did you decide in the course and the others decided, hey, we need someone with your business expertise, yeah, for instance, and the design expertise. When did this happen in the process? And do you think this should have happened earlier?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think our process of establishing the co-founder team, it was a stepwise process, as you just said. So in the beginning, there were Said and Yaman with their technical background, being in the fields of robotics, computer vision, AI, and they said, well, if we can teach robots how to move outdoors, that tech could also be used to help blind people. This is where um, the original idea of that AI companion originated. In the beginning, since Said had to still study, Yaman still had to work, um, they did it as a part-time or side project. There were also some other contributors. Um, when the idea was gaining a bit acceleration, I think there was the question, is it an idea that you could pursue full time, or should it just stay to be a side project? And just at that time, you said, I came to Munich. I was searching for a new startup, a new team. I accidentally met the both of them on an AI Plus event, actually.
Amazing.
um, and I asked them, "Do you need a business guy?" And they said yes. So it was the three of us, and maybe I can expand on that a bit more later. During our time at Digital Product School,
Mhm.
we actually found out that we we were lacking a bit of knowledge about how to consequently develop customer centric. And this is where Annika, our fourth co-founder, comes into play. I think she complemented us as a character, as a person, but also with her skills. So now it's the four of us, um, yeah, pursuing the mission.
Amazing. Right. So many topics I want to go through. How did you figure out that you can actually work together? Coming to an event, meeting someone like, hey, you have a great idea. I like your idea. You need a business guy. That's obviously objectively a good match, but it doesn't mean you actually click. It doesn't mean you can work together. How was the process of finding that out? And with Annika, the same. Yeah. Finding someone skill set that you need, as I said, character wise, as a person, super complementary. How did this process turn out? And highs and lows.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because this is a true thing that needs to be
yeah.
discussed.
Interestingly enough, I think with our sequential formation of the co-founder team, we also had different processes of finding out how to work together. So Yaman and Said, they had been friends for quite some years before they started the project. So they knew themselves, they knew their strengths and weaknesses, and I think that gave them a confidence to start that project together,
Mm.
because I think both knew that they are hardworking, ambitious, and smart. When I joined the team, I had no better idea than just having some kind of trial period. So, um, and it's a jump into cold water. But I said, well, I'm going to invest a certain amount of my weekly time for 1 or 2 months working on the project, not knowing whether I would continue with them or not. I also did it with other teams before I joined
At the same
SmartAIs.
time,
Yeah, also at the same time.
oh, partners. That's good.
I think it's fine as long as everyone is transparent about the process. I mean, it's about working together. It's about finding out if it's a fit or if it's a match. Yeah, and so for me, it was a 2 month process working with them and trying to assess whether they could be good co-founders for me,
Mhm.
and vice versa. They also were thinking, is Sasha
Yeah.
a good co-founder? When Annika joined us, that was during the time at Digital Product School. Beginning of 2024, we had just filed our Exist Gründungsstipendium. What
That's
is
not
it called?
totally fine
Yeah,
because that's literally the name.
yeah.
Yeah.
We had just filed our Exist application, and we were planning 2 or 3 years ahead as the Exist application wants to do. And for us, it felt like we should be a lot closer to the customer. And this is where we got actually advised to join Digital Product School that helps to develop customer centric and in an iterative way. When we talked to the guys at DPS, they said we usually have teams of 5, 2 developers, 1 designer, 1 product manager, and 1 AI guy. And we said we don't have a designer, and we are also lacking 1 developer. So DPS actually searched for 2 teammates, and one of them was Annika. And we worked together with her for 3 months during the program. And I think roughly half time, all the 3 of us, Yameside and I, we had the feeling I think she could be a really good fit. So we continued working together with her for 3 months, and then the 4 of us made the decision that it would be a good fit. Talking about ups and downs, as you were asking, I think in the end there are characters who can work together and characters who cannot work together. I think searching for someone who is really similar to you is not the best choice because you will not have enough discussions, you will not have enough different perspectives to really move fast. So I think in our co-founder team, we have really diverse characters. So the one is more structured, the other one is more exploring, the other one is more creative. And I think you need that. However, that creates tension. And the question is, how does a team deal with that tension? Because if you're just rubbing against each other, it can go either way. It can be destructive. It can be also slowing the process, but it also can be a very constructive process. So, and I think every team has to go through the process to find out what works for me, what doesn't work for me, what does the other person need, what should I not do working together with that person. So of course, we had a lot of discussions. We have a lot of discussions about how to work together. Sometimes that's also not easy, but I think it's a good thing if you can discuss about different perspectives. Yeah, and I think that process is ongoing. I think a team will always have to think about aligning the way how you work together, but still bringing in different perspectives.
Very cool. I couldn't have put it more to a point. Perfect. Thanks. Um, there were a few things I wanted to approach. First of all, this was a success story. What happened? What was during the process of looking for someone with a design approach? Maybe okay, digital product school was an amazing thing that we have a space where you can actually work with someone, and you did not look for someone before that, if I get you right, business wise. Um, you Yeah, they stumbled upon you basically during another event, but there are other solutions to look for a co-founder. Websites, for instance, electronic ways of finding someone who might be interested to you. Do you have some experience with that and the failures attached to them maybe, or the success from the past when you were looking for a new team? Was it always you want to meet them first in person, or did you take some digital versions, space as a guideline or as a helping tool?
That's a good question. I think I tried all of them.
Yeah.
I think I tried all of them. When you decide to found a startup or to join a startup, um, especially in a new city, I think you should try to use every chance to find your match for a co-founder. I think there are different ways how to do it. There is a lot of events that you could go to, especially in the early stages. There are teams who are not fully formed, who are missing the final puzzle piece. I think that helps a lot. Trying to connect to people from the ecosystem, for example, from Unternehmertum, from SCE, from AI Plus, just asking, are there some teams who are not complete? Um, already, almost always gave some good ideas who I could approach. I tried the online thing as well, in two ways. Number one, I just reached out to researchers and graduating students from the universities here, um, and I also tried matchmaking platforms.
Yeah,
However, for me, it felt like it's very inconcrete there, so very loose. You text someone, he doesn't text back, and whatever. So for me, it felt like meeting people in person at some events. I think for me, it was the best way, but it can go either way. I've heard all the stories. I think in the end, it's about going for different channels, and just trying to put yourself out there. Tell people that you are searching for co-founders, that you are searching for someone with an idea, or that you have an idea. I think that helps a lot. Just asking people in the ecosystem where you could publish your interest in becoming
yeah,
co-founder.
very nice. Because I thought we have a lot of questions from solo founders, for instance. Hey, I'm looking for a team. There's something, especially in the early stage, where you have a rough idea that you want to explore. You want someone to join you, but it's hard to convince someone with something that's not fleshed out. They're like, so what was your decision making in working with SmartAIs? Did you have already in mind what kind of company or startup you want to join? Because it's a very specific tool that you're developing. Yeah, for blind people, there's a lot of challenges connected to it. It's not the first thing people have in mind when they think about a startup development. They're like, it's very niche, it's very specific. Did you have a guideline where you wanted to go, or what you do not want to do? Or are you open and more have an idea of joining a team that's dedicated to something, and you want to join a dedicated team and you have options? Or what way was your setup in the time? I'm asking because of the very big challenges that early team formation also has. And
Mhm.
you did not know you had already a startup you were working with. Joining a team at a very early stage is a risk, of course. Yeah, that's but you have more time,
Mm.
possibilities to change the course of it at some point productively, as mean. So where did you come from?
So I think for me, I had a rough direction in which space I wanted to work. I said, I want to use newest technologies, fascinating technologies that are developed on great universities like TU Munich, or also Hochschule München, and I want to use that to really help people. That was my driver, my motivation. I wanted to combine those two things. Additionally, I had eyed at the health sector for quite some time, because I think a lot of innovation is going to happen in that space due to AI and all the new technologies. So that is where I was looking at.
We had like 25% almost of startups in AI plus Munich have some relation to health tech. So your gut feeling is kind of correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think in the health space, there's going to be a lot of innovation. It's not easy to get it to a standard where you can really use it to help people, but I think the chances are huge. What am I specifically looking for when searching for a co-founder? I think I need the feeling that a potential co-founder is really working hard, because building startup is hard, and it takes a lot of time. It's also exhausting. So you need people to work hard. Of course, they should be smart. The question is, how can you assess that? um, but what I'm also looking for is someone who is not similar like me, because I think, and I said that earlier, it doesn't make sense to search for a second me. It makes sense to search for someone who is complementing me. So that was those are the factors that I'm searching for when trying to find co-founders, right? And I think at SmartAIs it worked pretty well.
You mentioned during this time at DPS, the Digital Product School, that you were working with teams of 5, and there was an AI specialist attached to it. I was wondering during these, let's say, forming processes of DPS, where you have this, let's say, you have a team, you're supposed to develop a product, user-centric, and go of all these approaches. With the connection of an AI expert, let's say, do you see a difference in how to approach the design of a product? Do you see a use of specific tools, technology-wise, to make yourself more productive
Mhm.
during these workshops? So, like, is there a bit of a difference between let's say, don't want to say traditional startup development, yeah, that doesn't seem right to me, but with the aspect of the enabling technology of AI, like Gen AI stuff, we're not talking about only ChatGPT, but
Mhm.
agents developments. Is this something that happens during this workshops? Do you have seen that, or do you expect something like this to happen more in the formation process, especially at the beginning, where it's so many ways where you can go?
It's a complex question. I'm trying to answer it step by step. So, number one, I mean, Yaman and Said, they were the AI experts, right? So the fifth guy that we brought in was actually an iOS developer, which was also very much needed at that time. But Yaman and Said, they have a great understanding of all the technologies that are currently arising. But the speed of change in that area, it's crazy. So many new things are happening. So if we talk about what does AI mean for our startup, I think we have to distinguish two areas. Number one is AI used in our product. Um, and I think that is what is also obvious about our idea. AI giving an understanding of the surrounding, being able to analyze what is happening around you. I think it's a no-brainer that that technology should be used to help blind people to move outdoors. We heavily rely on using AI to make our vision come true, and I think it's our everyday is it called bread and butter?
I think
It's
yeah.
to try to find out how we can use AI, but also how we can use it in a safe way because regulation in that field it's not easy, especially if you are in the health field or being considered a medical product. It's everything else than easy. There's a second area of usage for AI, which is trying to speed up or to enrich processes inside of the company to be faster, to be better, to be more correct, maybe. So we also try to use AI tools yeah to speed up our process or to just make it our process of development or just make it more robust. I must say, currently there are popping up solutions and solutions and solutions, and you have everything. And nowadays, with the generative AI and the LLMs, everyone can basically build an application for a specific use case. And so, to be honest, for me, it's really hard to keep track of all the new things that are happening. So, I think when there is a revolution happening, that AI will revolutionize how startup work, but also how corporates work. When such a real revolution happens, I think there is also a lot of mist and dust, and I think you have to find out what are the tools that are really helping us, and also not ending up with a tool stack of 20 AI powered platforms. The question always for me is how much AI is really hidden
Yeah.
under the roof there. But for us, it is rather keep it simple. So we are using a lot of ChatGPT. And we are just trying to prompt it the right way. And I think in every area of our company, we use a tool like ChatGPT or another large language model to speed up processes. For development, for coding, Yaman and I, they are working with LLMs all day. So it's about ideation, it's about drafting code, it's about reviewing code, it's about debugging. It's basically someone sitting next to you being a sparring partner for how you are actually coding. For product, when Annika is using those tools, um, it's a lot about ideation. It's about getting a second perspective. Um, so, for example, how should our user experience be? How is it? What is important when developing a product for blind people? What you can also do on the product side and on the design side is trying to create something like we call it empathy questionnaires, right? Um, just asking your GPT, imagine you are a blind person and you're walking on the streets. What are your problems? How should a solution look like? But actually, I want to warn um, to use those tools because currently I'm working with a student project, and there for me it feels like they use a lot of GPTs, and answers get too generic, and it's a wrong sense of whether something is right or not. So, especially when it comes to customer discovery, you can use it as one source, as an additional source, but AI will not prevent you or save you from talking to customers. I think that's way, 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 way more important. Talking to customers, talking to people in a very manual way. You have to call them, you have to visit them. I mean, we are walking on the streets testing our solution every other week. And it's about talking to the people. I think that is far, far more valuable than AI ideation, although it helps, right?
Yeah. Before we step into the customer-centric approach, because this is a huge topic that we can discuss especially in your case, I was wondering about, can you figure out a specific aspect during the development of the product that you wish you would have accelerated? You would have had a bit of a idea upfront that actually these tools that can help you to get a new perspective would have helped. It's not about um, not to get the feedback from actual customers, but at a very early stage, yeah, before you go out and get like 100 ideas, you have these tools that have some access to information you might
Mhm,
not have. You think this could have been accelerated.
mhm.
I think about, for instance, you have a really amazing journey from a hardware product with actual goggles to into an app, which is more of like a software thing. Okay, you have still a hardware component with your bag. That's a
Yeah.
different thing, but it's a different magnitude of hardware, I'd say. So this, for instance, as an example, do you think it doesn't mean to be? It has to your perspective on it. Could this have been accelerated in a positive way without losing things about the learning curve that you experienced while discovering this topic?
I think we're questioning ourselves every day how we could speed up the process of building a product that reaches problem solution fit, maybe even product market fit at some point. And we haven't found an answer to it yet, right? Um, Looking back at our journey, and you said it, we started with a large vision of building our own smart glasses, having a hardware component, but also having the software. It took us quite some time to realize that we have to narrow down our product. It took us quite some time to realize that actually building a product is hard, and building software, it takes longer than you think. Building the hardware, it takes longer than you think. And in the end, it feels like you would have to spend so much time on bringing the different parts up to a level where it is a minimum viable product, it would just take too long. And in the end, it's about finding out, do people really need uh, a solution for a certain problem? So, yes, I think it took us too long to narrow down what we are building, to shrink down our product, to erase complexity, to say we are not building our own smart glasses because Meta and Google and whoever will build some good platforms where we could just integrate. I think where using AI could have helped us in just asking and thinking how to narrow down our product. Because usually you start with a vision and a big product, and you are starting to think it should to do this and that and whatever. And especially if you have a tech background, you know what is possible from a technology side. And of course, you want to use the latest technology and have a really, really great solution. But in the end, I think that's the wrong approach. And it's about trying to find a really, really small use case or a really, really small functionality inside of your big vision that you have, build it as fast as possible, ship it to testers, let people test. It could even be mockups, right? It doesn't have to be a functional website, app, or whatever. Do a mockup and ask people, what should I change, right? So we could have asked AI, how can we narrow down our product? And what should we start with? I think that would help a lot. It would have saved us quite some money. However, it's always a hindsight bias. If you look back, you always wonder, could I have done it quicker, faster, better? So that is the first thing. The second thing, where I think, or where we're still thinking, how AI could help us to speed up the process. So during the time at Digital Product School, we learned to develop a product really in an iterative way. It's 2 week sprints. You try to have a really small scope of development that can be tested with someone after 2 weeks. We're still following that framework. The development or the sprint periods have become a bit longer because the changes that we have to make are getting a bit more complex. But it takes time to iterate. It also includes going wrong paths and making a decision to develop something, and after 2 iterations, you find out it's not the thing that we would have needed. So we haven't found a solution for that yet, but um, we would be super happy if AI could help us iterating faster.
You got experience from different places, like Airplus Munich events to find people. You've been part of the Strategic Center for Entrepreneurship programs. You've been part of Unternehmertum programs like Digital Product School. What is a perspective on the different offers from an ecosystem? Like you have different places to go. Would you recommend a specific place or a specific approach if you come from one university or the other? What would you have for, especially see me as someone, I just started with the idea, hey, maybe I want to do a startup. I'm very the early beginning. I don't have the knowledge about who to contact. That there's some things there like Munich Startup, for instance, here in Munich, where you have a center point to get some information, at least where to start. What would be your perspective on the benefits of a wide ecosystem and the approach for someone starting at the beginning? Where to go first? What to do first? Is there a wrong or right approach?
There's no wrong or right approach, and I just can share my perspective on it. So I think startuppers and entrepreneurs in Munich are very fortunate to have an ecosystem like there is today. I think there are not too many other cities in Europe who can offer that. So the way that I did it was really going to the universities, going to the universities of applied sciences, especially Technical University of Munich, but also Hochschule München. Um, and both of them have quite some. They have great startup ecosystems attached. So at TU Munich, you have the Unternehmertum. At Hochschule München, you have the SCE. And I think they have everything that you need to get started. They have coaches, they have initial courses that you can take, programs that give you some basic knowledge. I think that is all you need. To be honest, there are so many startup organizations in Munich that for me it was hard to actually find out what is the organization that I have to approach. I mean, later I found out that AI Plus, Munich, now AI Nation,
Both. It works the same way.
um, that they are also very hands-on, working very close to the people. Yeah, I think that's it. Just try to go to SCE or Unternehmertum or AI Nation and start asking. And from there, people will actually recommend you to do other things. I think it's about just finding the first one or two connections. Sometimes it takes a bit of time. So I think you also need to, yeah, continue trying to reach out to people. It also took time for me, but in the end, it pays off, I think.
Then let's come back to the customer-centric approach. You highlighted that the idea of developing faster in iteration and ideation, especially in the early MVP development, when you're really struggling and trying to get feedback from actual users, from actual people. This is something where AI tools can actually help you out. Um, what do you think about the possibility of focusing in your ideation on the front end development with AI instead of the back end development? Because you do not know yet what you want to build, because you don't know yet what the customer might feedback to you. Maybe you need a specific feature, or you do not need a specific feature that you thought it could be important. Um, in our understanding, we think that AI tools, especially in front end development, could help out to make something, a mock-up, to be traded to get feedback from potential customers. What is your approach? Are you going to do something like that in the future? Have you thought about it?
I do think that when you think of AI helping to code quick testable versions or to even create testable versions, it can help a lot, especially just having a front end that has a certain functionality that can display a certain customer journey. I think it can help a lot. In our specific case, as we are working with blind people, so front end is it is important, it has to be accessible, but it didn't have that high of importance for us. For us, it was more of iterating on the functionality, having really something testable, because we have a device where people go outdoors, right? So for us, I think it was not that suitable. But if you are working on purely online solutions, I can imagine that it helps a lot. And I talked to also other entrepreneurs who had been experimenting with it. So I think there could be a potential. However, as a startupper, as an entrepreneur, as a founder, you have to understand your customers 100%. And you have to talk to them because you have to pull the strings. I think you cannot outsource the process of gaining the insights. I mean, I would love to be proved wrong, but at the moment, at the current stage where LLMs are, for me, it feels like it still needs the human in the loop, and the AI could be a helper. It might change in the future, working with different agents that can be trained for several things. Yeah, it might work in the future, but we are more going the old-fashioned way, seeing AI as a support that gives ideas. Yeah.
Connecting this to the ecosystem topic again. When we talk about startup ecosystems, most people think about, okay, actual startups, accelerators, incubators, investors, actually, yeah, academia in general with experts. But there's more to it. The public sector, of course, one thing, but those the customers actually at some point as well. Yeah, like they work in associations. So what is your approach towards associations in finding customers, for instance? This is from the ecosystem perspective, like finding multipliers.
So I would say an ecosystem is nice, but customers and multiplicators who bring you to customers are even more important. So the approach we are trying is, and we got taught by the digital product school to do that. Reach out to potential users, bring a small solution to them, and ask them how to make it better. How did we reach the blind people? There are for every part of Germany, there's a blind association. We reached out to them. We asked them, can we use your newsletters to ask for interviewees or for testers? We are trying to be in contact with different players in that field. And I think um, that is most important, getting the perspective of all stakeholders in a certain area, talking to them, trying to establish contact. Without them, we wouldn't be where we are today. But that's hands-on reaching out, trying to pursue or to convince people of the vision that you have, the mission that you are going for. Yeah.
How was your experience with these people, with these associations? Have most of them been um, positive about what you're doing? Are there specific ones that you can work with a lot and others are less cooperative? Just to have a general idea. Not everyone will always react to your outreach, I guess. Yeah. How is the acceptance to your approach and the feedbacks? Yeah. Are they potential customers actually? Yeah. Is this something where even AI tools can help you out with providing them with information about your specific topics and developments? Maybe newsletter. You said newsletters, providing them with some additional information. Is this something you thought about?
So asking about how can associations help us, we've seen the whole variety. There are associations, for example, the Bavarian Blind Association. Um, they are very forward-looking. They are always on the search for new technologies that could help the blind community. We've received a lot of support from them. On the other hand, there are associations from other regions, from Germany, that were not really interested. I think in the end, if you start with a startup, you don't have to convince everyone. You have to identify the users, the associations who are early adopters, who want to help you progress. I think it's about identifying, and the other ones you can leave aside and you can tackle them later. Second part of the question.
Second part of the question was like to engage with them again in using AI tools to continuously, potentially um, getting feedbackers, let's say, to leads and potentially to actual customers, like engaging with them. Because when you get feedback from, I guess, maybe hundreds of people, to be able as a small team to engage with them continuously is nothing you can do each day. Yeah, you have limited resources, and AI is an enabling tool that providing, for instance, news about what's happening in this specific area of technology for blind people could be something to engage with them. Do you think this is something? This is something you thought about?
So the question for me has two parts. Part number one is content creation to get all relevant players on board and to have them updated. I think this is where generative AI really shines. Um, Being able to, on a certain set of information that you have about your progress, um, creating content that is suitable for each communication channel that you are using. So, um, LinkedIn communication is something different than communicating with potential investors, than communicating with associations, and communicating with maybe testers. So I think this is, and also thinking of different languages and stuff. I think this is where generative AI really shines, to cater and to tailor different target groups for your communication. Regarding your question about how could AI actually help to structure, to boil down customer insights, that is really an interesting topic. So the way we are currently approaching it is trying to narrow down the number of insights that we get, because what we found out is people in the blind space, like everyone else, they have different preferences. The one likes to do this, the other one likes to do that. But what is most important? What is the thing that that should be done first? Because as a startup, you're always questioning yourself, what is the next most important step? So the way we do it is we narrowed down our target group to try to focus on the group that has the biggest problem with obstacles outdoors, to reduce complexity there. Then we try to identify innovative early adopters who have an understanding for the tech, or what tech usually does, and that developing a product is a iterative process. So we are talk currently. We have 25 testers here in Munich. We have another 20 early adopters from all over Germany discussing about our product. And this is how we try to actually reduce complexity, trying to gradually expand the number of users that we are targeting. However, even with that reduced number of users and a reduced number of perspectives, it is a huge complexity. And the question for a startup always is, what is most important right now? And actually, I think the direction you are pointing at, using AI to have a larger sum of insights and to to condense it, to boil it down to the really important insights. I would love to experience with that. Still, there's also a thought, well, what bias does actually the LLM have, and what information does the LLM not have? But on the other hand, it might have information that we don't have. So it is something to experience about, especially if you have larger amount of users testing.
One of the main issues that we see when customer interviews are a topic for early startups is what kind of questions you should actually ask to avoid a bias towards your potential customer. You have a bit of a vision, not just a vision in mind, a specific product in mind, and to target your questions um, too narrow can already bias the answer of your potential customer, avoiding you actually finding the problem. What was your experience with this aspect of getting the right feedback to focus on the very specific needs that you were talking about? Yeah. What was the role of these blind associations with that in this process?
I think we learned a lot regarding that aspect throughout the last year or so. I think in the beginning, it we had a certain product in mind. We had a certain feeling about what blind people actually would need and what not, and what a solution could look like. I think you shouldn't do that, right? You always have to start at problems. So a few months in our project, what we did is we said, well, let's try to put all our ideas that we have aside. Let's try to put all the assumptions that we're actually taking, let's put them aside. And let's ask blind people what their problems are. No bias. You just you just go into an interview, you just ask them, today I would like to know about your problems. And you don't ask in a specific direction. You just ask, what are your problems? We did that with roughly 100 blind people, and they have a lot of problems, and it's crazy. And I think you could build 10 startups out of it. But I think problem discovery without a bias, just ask people. Um, for example, when you are outdoors, what problems do you have? But still, there's also it's also already narrowing down. You could also just say, "Tell me about your daily problems that you have," right? Um, and this is where you can find out, okay, 60 out of 100 people mentioned this, 60 out of 100 people mentioned that. And then it's about finding out how often does it happen, how big is that problem, um, what are the alternative solutions, how are they solving it today? Maybe there is a quick fix which is good enough, and they wouldn't want to pay for a product itself. So book recommendation that I could give here is the mom's test, trying to give advice on how to discover problems. Then finding a solution, I think that's up to you, because we tried to ask people, how would you like to the solution to be? What should it do? And we found out, number one, people have really different opinions about what the solution should be. And number two, the assessment is also biased from their side. So one specific point in our development was, in the beginning, we asked people, how would you like to receive the information about an obstacle? Do you want to have speech? Do you want to have vibration? Do you want to have beeping tones? And a lot of people said speech. When we built the product in our first iterations and we tried it, people said it doesn't work at all. I have to stop. I have to process what the app is saying. So asking how people would like the solution to be might also lead to the wrong way. So just summing that up, in the end, and we are taught by DPS, it's about starting with a very small product that people can experience, that people can test, and from there you try to iterate instead of asking what should the solution look
Yeah.
like.
I think you made a really amazing point with the so what kind of how do you want this information as a blind person? Where to go? It's a super interesting topic because did, one question in advance. Did you ask specifically about these options? Take one of these, or was it an open question? Yeah, but it wasn't, of course. It seems like. But what I think about the topic is like, okay, how do you want to get information? It's not about the speech, vibration, or whatever, but it's supposed to be intuitive. I think this is the main
Mhm.
message from the product. Yeah, you want to have a quick, intuitive information that something's coming. This is not the if this is a speech or vibration or whatever is something you need to test, of course. How did you test the perfect solution for that? So right now it's vibration and a beeping sound, which is super related to how to park,
Yeah,
parking in, which
yeah.
is kind of nice. I think that it works a lot. It works nicely. When I tried it out, I had a situation of, okay, does the beep now provide me with the information something's coming, or am I supposed to go this direction?
Mhm.
And this is something super interesting. What are your thoughts about this very specific thing in regard of interviewing?
Mhm. I actually do not recall whether we gave the options or whether it was an open question. The open question would have been better. However, when we asked open questions, sometimes you have to point people in a certain direction. Otherwise, you might create information, but not the information that you actually need. Um, to be honest, the current interaction that we're having, it's super basic, and it's far from what we imagine it to be and what it should be. Um, in the end, it still comes down to build something very small, something very not perfect, and try to test it. And maybe it's already enough. Maybe people are saying, it's good the way it is, or maybe I would like to also have some information how far the obstacle is away, and can you not incorporate it, and then you might just think of how can I give the information about how far it is, and then you implement it, and there it's about quick implementation instead of perfect implementation. It's about having something implemented that can be tested as quickly as
Mm,
possible, and let them test, and then try you can ask how could we do it better, and then thinking about how to how to improve it.
In that regard, what's your point in regard of deep partnerships and networks to get to the very basic, this very important customer base that can you actually provide the feedback that you need? We have these associations. This is one thing. Are there other industries, for instance, where you have partnerships with to go in a different direction or having similar problems? Talking about like how to navigate a car, for instance. Like, what's your
Mhm.
approaches? Why? How did you develop that? What's your opinion in that regard?
I mean, when we started, we asked ourselves, and it's also an ongoing process, who do I have to contact in order, or who do I have to content who could help me reaching my customers? In the blind sector, there's quite an established structure. You have the blind associations, you have trainers for orientation and mobility, you have specialized smartphone consultants. Um, so in the end, we're trying to talk to all of them and yeah, trying to focus on the channels that are most important. Um, in the end, those associations are facilitators. I think they are not giving us insights how to develop a product, but they can help us reaching out to the users.
Put yourself in a situation where you can actually give some advice to your past self in regard of how to go into the startup direction, working with SmartAIs and your previous company. What would this advice be?
I think the most important advice that I would give is try out things as fast as possible. Don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid of sending out an email that is maybe not perfect. Just be quick and rather go for better done than perfect. You can fix it later.
In the past 2 years now, in the company, from your perspective or from your side, what was the most rewarding moment you think that you experienced while working on the product, working in your startup? It can be professional wise, like as for the startup, or personal, individual, up to you.
I think what is most rewarding for me, but I think in general for the team, for the four of us, is bringing a prototype, a test version out to the customer, testing it, and gaining insights. The gaining insights, seeing what the user is doing with my product, about the problems that I still have, about what is already good, and then creating the insights. Like, okay, um, now we have a new level of understanding. I think that fuels us a lot. And whenever we test, we gain a, a new feeling of clarity. And whenever we don't test, that clarity starts to fade. So, and it's a bit weird because you ask about rewarding, but actually building something and testing it with user and getting feedback, getting good feedback, but also getting bad feedback, that's most rewarding, I think, for us as a team.
I think that's an amazing answer. With the getting the feedback where you have clarity of what you're doing is something good. And the moment you get away from that, it gets blurry, like darkening, and it's just for its own sake, as I understand you, yeah. But when you have the emotional attachment that you realize what you're doing, something that makes a difference, I think is a perfect setup for being rewarding.
True.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you very much for this interview.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Good luck with all your endeavors.
We'll give our best.